Out there, under stars and branches, tricky birds and bustling beasts and patient riverbeds, I'm called to nature. Dartmoor, Bodmin Moor, the coast, the forests, and there's a portable, universal thing that calls me in the same way. Campfire. And note, no fires on the moors, please. They are delicate things despite appearances. Around a campfire, we behave in a different way. We work together on an instinct. We talk to the flames and the darkness. Maybe we pass a bottle. Maybe we sing. It could well be the oldest way we know how to be. My invitation for you this evening is to think in these times of crisis about how you might bring back the way of campfire in your life. I have 3 stories to explore this before I share the first one. How many of you have felt or heard something of yourself between moments? Cleaning your body, traveling. Have you ever found something the moment you stopped looking for it? A set of keys, a career, love. In The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho describes the soul of the world, says the flow and rhythm within ourselves is the same as the rest of nature, that our calling, our purpose comes from the soul of the world. I call it the body voice. This is the body voice. Listen to your heart. The words of mentors and lovers, fathers and mothers, listen to your heart. But how do they mean lust, hunger, the inner monologue of we heard our hearts? Something in the roots and green shoots and campfire flames tells us no. To listen in a different way, the call just beyond hearing when we stand at a crossroads. The thing that comes padding silently by when we are unthinking, unbusy, the body voice. This thing of ours, this body, it isn't just an interpreter of nature, it is nature, it is nature. This breathing, blood-pumping bio-container, this loving, resilient, hairy mishmash of genes, it is nature. When we go out into nature, we see greens and blues. When we go into nature, bear witness, we can hear the language of nature. We can feel the language of nature. It's powerful and joyful and tragic. It's the sinewy chest-to-chest connection that makes us part of this wide world we've pretended for so long to own and conquer. It's older and more experienced than logic, far wiser than lust. And it's not just one snapshot thought or story to catch, it's 1,000 to steep in. Like the whale's call, profound in its fathoms and 1,000-mile voyages, like the ancient oak whose rustles and creaks, having then the lyrics of glaciers and tectonic scrapings. The body voice sings in pines and sounds the starling's call, heartbeat in the patter of rain, natter of crickets, salmon shimmer and dogs' apology eyes, storm fronts, starlight, sunsets, and dew. Is it any wonder that the great spiritual leaders of this world who spend a lifespan considering this existence conclude that life, the cosmos, the meaning of it all, is in a moment's pause, a smile, a breath. Like animals and wild weather, we can't convince or cajole the body voice to come. But with space and patience, listen to your heart. Listen. So many of our modern stories are slick and self-contained. We take quick hits and then move on to the next thing, and the gaps between are given to the lockstep of gossip and headlines and slogans. In this landscape of carbon offset snake oil in which we find ourselves, old stories could give us cues as to how we might interact differently with the world. Old stories are wild, untidy things. Time moves strangely. There are obscure characters and haphazard events, and they change as they're passed from campfire to campfire over the generations. But we can feel the ancient wisdom in that. They are shared, not sold. So instead of looking for the sales message or a hidden agenda or a side to take, we recognize an offering to go deeper. This next story is 400 or more years old. The bones of it are probably thousands of years old, and it comes from the ground we stand on today in Cornwall. Before I begin, I invite you to see what happens when the story is you. Not characters set apart from you on a stage, but within your body. The stranger, the devil, the pastor, the shepherd, all within your body. Maybe the same parts that were in the hearts of the people who first told this story. This is my retelling of the story of Jan Tregeagle. It's a story I call Barring the Door on Bodmin Moor. Safe from a storm in an old stranger's hut, holding hands to her sad little fire. She eyes us all grimly, working her mouth, and leans in with this tale to conspire. Used to be, there was a shepherd roamed on Bodmin Moor near Dosmerry Pool, Jan Tregeagle, and one day he wished out loud for a better life. In a flash of red, a knight appeared in bloody armour with a lance of ebony, followed by 2 hellhounds, black as pitch, their jaws dripping with gore. The knight offered Tregeagle all that he'd asked for in exchange for his soul. He conjured a scroll and a quill. Tregeagle signed. Clouds crossed the moon, and the night fell to quiet and still. Tregeagle awoke dressed in gorgeous attire, plumes to make the peacocks blush. People called him master and lord, and he went on to live a life of excess. He kidnapped Gunhilda, the Earl of Cornwall's daughter, and he murdered and cheated whoever he pleased. One day, at last, Tregeagle died, and the hellhounds were waiting to take him away. After his death, one of Tregeagle's old tenants was summoned to Bodmin Court to settle a debt. "I paid that rent," said the man to the court. "I paid it, I swear to Lord God. You've cheated me yet again, even in death, Tregeagle, you spiteful old sod. Come and tell the truth," he said. "Jan Tregeagle! Jan Tregeagle! Jan Tregeagle!" And there in the witness stand, a thin, haggard thing took shape, the spirit of Tregeagle. The people of the court fled in panic, and there in their wake were the 2 hellhounds, snapping and snarling for Tregeagle's soul. The parson of St. Bruard, who was a noted wizard, not wanting to send Tregeagle's soul back to hell, set him the task of emptying Dosmerry Pool with a limpet shell. But the limpet shell had a hole drilled through it, so every time he went to bail the tarn out, water dripped straight back through again. But as long as he stayed at his task, his soul would never pass to hell. One day, the devil cast a storm so fierce, it forced Tregeagle running away from Dosmerry, chased by the 2 hellhounds, howling across Bodmin Moor. Some say he's still running. Others say he was given new impossible tasks, like sweeping beaches or spinning rope out of sand. Some say St. Petrock himself set Tregeagle the task of moving sand from Birrippa to Porthleven, but the devil tripped him and his sacks of sand fell to create Lobar. Whatever the story, always he screams, loudest at Dosmerry Pool. And whenever the wind blows through Cornwall, it's Tregeagle's howls that we can hear. And we, in this hut, by the morning's grey light, are evicted with curses and kicks. But careful, says the old woman from the door of her hut. There are bogs and spontaneous mists. For this last story, I'd like to share something of myself. A story that fundamentally changed me and opened my life to colour and beautiful birdsong. 2 years and 3 months ago, me and my wife were blessed with a beautiful little boy, Patch. He has her hair, my eyes, and a smile as easy to coax out as a puppy's wagging tail. But Patch was born with a profound brain disorder. He is mentally and physically disabled, non-verbal, non-mobile, and prone to seizures. After 4 nights and 4 days of testing and scans after Patch was born, we were called into a doctor's room. Patch beside us in a purple hospital blanket. The doctor read out a list of words that would be harrowing to overhear as a stranger, much less internalise as his parents. We were heartbroken, racked with confusion and terror and guilt for feeling those feelings. We love Patch to our cores, and together we have waded through the treacle of trauma. And it was those stories and that honesty you get, the flame-gazing honesty you get from being at a campfire, that gave me the words to write this story. This is called Fix. I was raised to be strong, to fix problems, to lift my chin and bolster shoulders to the threat, to give as good as get. And though I never built the muscle to roughhouse and tussle, the legs or the lungs to outrun, I learned to sharpen my tongue. Wit and quips, since I was a boy, it's how I learned to stand as a man, to hold out my hand for the shield forged by generations of men who didn't know how to cry. But eventually, at 32, the tears caught me in a field, took my knees into the mud, and when people asked me how I was, I found a softer tongue, an honest tongue. Said, our mountains slide when the doctors say risk. When he looks, quizzical cub, eyes round, heart round, one brow lifted, asking silently for me to make it better. When they open his foot for blood and hunt his veins with cannula spikes and drive a tube down into his face, how I forget how to swallow, how to blink when we're told to count our days with him. Some people looked to fix, reminded me time is a healer, miracles happen, to be strong. They swept away my broken pieces and flicked their horror over their shoulder. But some stepped off and down into the depths with me, and in those grey waters I found the light to fray the edges of the dark. His little smile, the rope ladder, his laughter, the barrel floating through the wreckage. Sometimes we shade our eyes, there's so much light. There's darkness too, but we are no longer drowning. And nowadays there is more to every day, to not being okay, to the look on another person's face when we agree to answer the question, how are you? With, I don't know. Relaxing into that emotional undertow, and both of us feel slightly less alone. I don't smile for the camera unless the smile was there before the lens, and the photos are so tender. I don't rush for summer when winter repairs so much of us. I say the dark things out loud and make art of my wounds before they can be allowed to become me or fester in the daftest version of masculinity. And I know now that the only way to reach people in darkest waters isn't to pull them out. It's to jump in. And when I swim near the shore, I can't help but recall it in the way the throbbing warmth of a nettle sting reminds me of exploring, in the way the edge of a shadow, the line between dark and light is a master artist drawing, in the way pain and love shoulder and fight through the same doorway. And though I am strong, it is a different kind of strength. Remembered now in the tale we wend, where time is a moment not to fix, not to be hard, not to die behind a lonely shield, but to just be together and let the darkness sing. I believe that the campfire is an invitation to connect to our body voice, to remember and retell old stories, to let in darkness as well as light. I believe when we behave in this way, in this ancient way, we see something of ourselves and nature in one another. And in these times of crisis and social separation, I believe that forward we must go together. Thank you.